Hello, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name's Alec Dick.
And I'm David Weston. Thanks indeed for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about stainless solutions for specialist applications. Now Alec, we're going to be covering three important subjects today. What might they be?
Yeah, thanks David. We're going to be kicking off with SL2, which is our stainless steel linear range, and we've greatly expanded that range, taking influence from our GB3 options. So we'll be taking a look at that. Then we'll be taking a closer look at our PRT2 ring and track stainless steel solutions for continuous and circular type motion. And then last but not least, we're going to be looking at GFX Hygienic, which is a collaboration from Hepco and Beckhoff, which features a linear motor driven modular track system, which is capable of independent asynchronous motion in washdown type applications. And of course, if you guys have any questions, then please drop them in before the end of the session. And if you're not watching this live, then please feel free to contact us.
Let's kick off with the first one, titled SL2. I'm going to start with a question, Alec. Why are stainless steel solutions required?
Yeah, really, you know, as it says on the tin, really for specialist applications. And there are two sort of key drivers behind that. The first is the environment. You know, is it wet, dirty, chemicals, washdown type of applications? And the second is regulatory demands. So particularly in pharmaceutical and food type applications, there needs to be a certain sort of hygienic standard for the materials your machines are made out of.
Okay, very well put. Let's look at some of the challenges that some people might associate with using stainless. First of all, there'll be a perceived cost with that. Secondly, I think it's very important that the specification of the grade of the stainless steel is correct. And last but not least, the processing.
Yeah, and really all of those three things are very much interlinked. When you look at the cost of the material up front, you know, the stainless steel has much sort of high grade of materials involved in its composition, and there's many different specifications of stainless steel giving you different properties depending on the application, but also the processing of that stainless steel can take longer than the comparable sort of carbon steels. If you've ever taken a saw or a file to a piece of stainless steel, you'll know it's pretty tough stuff to deal with.
No, absolutely so. Yeah. Okay, well explained. Let's start then, with the SL2. Let's look at the basic additions, Alec.
Yeah, so as I said a couple of minutes ago, the SL2 range, we've really sort of taken influence from our flagship GB3 range, which has given designers and engineers an unparalleled level of options in terms of how they can configure their designs. And that's what we try to sort of bring into SL2 because we're recognising that there is more demand in these specialist industries and applications where you need those design choices. So one of the first things that we've included is a full range of single edge stainless steel slides in the spacer format. And so this means that you can mount it on pretty much any surface without any sort of specialist preparation. The single edge slides can be separated by considerable distance. That gives you flexibility in terms of where you position the bearings which take the load, enables you to create a larger platform and also increase your moment capacity. In addition, those single edge slides can include an integrated rack, so it gives you a nice little simple drive option for as long as you need. And we've also provided a range of racks for our double edge slides as well. Complete, of course, with stainless steel pinions.
Absolutely. I think it's worth mentioning the point when you talk about we've increased the number of sizes. We've now included the size 20 size of slide, which is usually used in conjunction with a size 18 diameter bearing. We know how successful that's been in GV3 because it hits that sweet spot of the envelope, of the space envelope. With available capacity, with high capacity as well. So that's a very welcome inclusion to the SL2 range. I will just make the point here that we're talking about the V system, so that the V system and the associated features and benefits that we've talked about many times before, and you can of course find those on our website. So going beyond the basic additions, let's talk about compliance, Alec. What are we offering on compliance now with SL2?
Yeah, and again, you know, taking influence from GV3, we know that there's been the compliance options within that range offer designers an easy way to sort of cut costs on their design and particularly the installation. You know, if you're aligning guides, you know, in parallel particularly, if you don't have some sort of compliance built in, because our systems are zero play, then you have to make sure that all the supporting framework is incredibly accurate. So
precision costs money.
Yeah, exactly. So why make life difficult for yourself? And you know, we can include these compliance options in stainless steel. So we've got stainless steel floating bearings. So these are bearings that have a degree of axial float. Okay. And in addition, we've also included our range of flat tracks. So flat tracks and the flat track rollers, both in wide and narrow format. And that really sort of allows you to position guides. And you know, you could potentially have up to a few millimeters of misalignment and this thing will still run.
Absolutely
so it's taking away a lot of the headaches that designers can sometimes face.
I was going to use the word headaches myself. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's great. Any additional features that we've now included?
So we've also included a removable carriage as well. So you think about if you're designing a system where the carriage or the guide is running between bulkheads in a machine or it's inaccessible, instead of having to strip one end of the machine out to take the carriage off, we've got the double eccentric bearings on the carriage, which basically allows you to back them right off and lift the carriage from the top.
Absolutely right. For instance, as well on very long process lines with multiple carriages where you can't just haven't got the option to run it off the end. And again, we'll be touching on stainless steel ring and track next. But again, that's a continuous system without the option of an end to roll it off. So again, a removable carriage is a very, very cost-effective and viable option under those circumstances. Let's talk about scientific applications or more specific applications, maybe with high temperature, low temperature, or even vacuum environments.
Yeah, and really, you know, again, talk about very specialised applications. When you look at vacuum type environments, then you need to make sure that the bearing doesn't have any sort of traps for air and gas. So we make sure it's a fully ported design. The actual construction of the bearing is fully stainless steel. We don't have any sort of nylon cages or anything like that within the bearing. And we also include a specialist vacuum specification grease. With the high and low temperature options, again, you know, particular high temperature, you need an all sort of steel, stainless steel construction, specialist lubricants. And those bearings will allow us to cover a range of -50 degrees C up to plus 210 degrees C. So really quite a broad spectrum.
Absolutely, a very comprehensive range of temperatures there. I don't need to say it, but I will. All of these additions and information on those are available on our website under SL2. So please go there if you want to find out more information. That brings us to the end of SL2. I'm also going to make the point that we have a wide range of products within the Hepco portfolio. We've talked about these before, and pretty much all of them do have already stainless steel options. So please don't feel you're limited to SL2. There are many others, including stainless steel ring and track, which we're going to talk about next, Alec.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about our stainless steel ring and track solutions. which is, very much incorporated within the PRT2 range. Sort of looking at what we've been talking about in terms of stainless steel and its properties, etc. Why these options within the PRT2 range?
Well, I think we need to touch base essentially with what our PRT2 range offers in terms of flexibility of size and configuration anyway, okay? And then we know that there are specific industries, food, pharmaceutical, many others, battery production, that specifically require stainless steel slides and bearings in a very, very configurable manner. And that's what we're able to achieve with the stainless steel options of our PRT2 system. Very much the main conduit sometimes in a machine. It's the main artery of conveying product around the system through the various processes in the machine. And what we need to do is we need to look in terms of what PRT2 track systems or rings offer compared to, shall we say, maybe other conveying solutions.
Okay, yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the fact about this sort of conveying the continuous motion through the machine, and we've already sort of talked about sort of linear solutions within our SL2 range, and of course there's a lot of options which transfer through to the PRT2 range, particularly when it comes to track systems. What sort of can you run us through the different sort of size options? Where do we start in terms of small up to big?
We can go very small to very big, Alec, and we do have heavy-duty options as well. But let's just keep it to our standard PRT2 sizes. We can the smallest size of bearing that we do is a size 13 diameter bearing, and we can go up to a size 54 diameter bearing, essentially providing a static capacity, of hundreds of kilograms. So the range of capacity is huge, and also the size and configuration and options of the slides and the tracks and the segments that make up the track system are also important. So we go from a very small 93 diameter segment or ring up to around about, I think, 1501 millimeters as standard diameter, offering a huge amount of choice. And again, in the terms of the sizes, we go from a size 12 millimeter wide V slide up to a size 76 as standard within the PRT2 range. This is what designers need. They need the flexibility, and they need the other things that the V system in one of our traction systems will give them: the durability, the corrosive resistance, the precision, and pretty much all of the other V-guide benefits that we've touched on many times before.
Yeah, of course. And when we're talking about sort of track systems, continuous motion, the type of applications that we see, can be involved in industries such as pharmaceutical, medical, food, and the continuous motion is really about sort of transferring the product through various stations through the process. Yeah. As you say, it forms the core of the machine. And obviously the PRT2, much like the SL2, is sort of a component-based system. How does the customer go about actually driving these systems?
That's a good question. We obviously have the rack-driven options that we spoke about before. We can provide our ring systems with integrated racks. But of course, we can use our stainless steel PRT2 track options, our tracks, our segments, our rings, our bearings, and we can use those on our driven track systems. So we have belt-driven options, we have scroll-driven options, and above that, of course, we have our GFX, Beckhoff XTS options, where you have each of the movements, each of the movers that move autonomously and give the absolute high excellence of precision and autonomy of movement. So we've got a huge range. It doesn't just stop with a track system with us. We can, of course, offer the complete system.
Okay, and sort of going down to the sort of the very very basic sort of rings. What are the options with the rings in terms of can we segmented rings, and what might they be used for?
We can provide any diameter, any any angle of segment to start with. Most typically on track systems, we will be looking at 90-degree segments for a rectangular system, and 180-degree segments for an oval system. But there is no limitation there. We can create triangular tracks, all sorts of things. I think the key, Alec, is flexibility, and the fact that the means of what we can do with these basic elements, they're very, very configurable to suit the bespoke requirement of an individual customer's application.
One of the sort of concerns or things that are brought up when engineers and designers are looking at these solutions is sort of maintenance and lubrication. We know that sometimes in particular applications, lubrication can be a problem, for, say a food type application. What are sort of the solutions there? We
have food grade lubricants, of course. And again, what we do is we can offer the right lubricant for the right application. And it's not just about what the lubricant is, of course. It's keeping the system lubricated properly. So we have various lubrication options, including bleed lubrication, which means low to zero maintenance. Again, all of the usual features and benefits and cost-saving options that the Hepco V system will provide you with. So many different options. Let's not forget, of course, those high temperature bearings and those vacuum bearings that we talked about before. They're very important and available in our track systems as well, Alec.
Yeah, thank you, David. And really, just to sum up, I mean, we've seen a huge amount of varied applications for our stainless steel PRT2. Anything from sort of vial filling to sort of inspection systems with a camera following an arc, in sort of vacuum type environments. Obviously, you can use the specialist bearings from our SL2 range within it to various sort of food processing type applications. So really, there is a huge amount of flexibility within this product range.
Absolutely right. And while we just touch on food, of course, and food packaging, then we also have to consider wash down, wipe down, the chemicals being used in each of these instances. And this is where the customer can come and talk to us, and we will walk through the process of what's right for that particular application based on those chemical substances and many, many other things.
Okay, well, thank you, David. I think we'll wrap it up there and then take a look at GFX Hygienic.
Good idea. Okay, Alec, last but not least, we're going to talk about GFX, the guidance system for Beckhoff's XTS system and the hygienic options available. Let's start with you explaining what it is.
Yeah, so GFX, as you stated, is a guide for XTS and very much a collaboration between Beckhoff and Hepco. And the technology is based around linear motor technology. So this means that unlike a mechanically linked system, driven system, where every single mover or carriage has to move synchronously at the same time, with the linear motor technology, every single mover around that track system can move independently, asynchronously. So different accelerations, different speeds, even different directions. Okay, the GFX Hygienic. Okay, we've taken that track linear motor track technology, and it is specifically aimed at a number of different applications where you might need what we call a hygienic solution.
Okay. Makes sense. So the next obvious question would be, what are the options?
Okay, so as is always the case, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. There are very much different applications out there. So they're sort of starting at the sort of bottom end of the scale. We've got the clean down version. This is the most sort of basic element of the GFX Hygienic.
It's like a wipe down.
So yeah, really aimed at sort of wipe down type applications. So if you think maybe pharmaceutical manufacturer might have a process where they run so many cycles and then they have to have an alcohol wipe down. Mm-hmm. The construction of the clean down GFX Hygienic system is very similar to a standard GFX. So we have the 30mm aluminium base plate the motor brackets. The track system is stainless steel, and all the aluminium components, such as the movers, are coated with a hard coat anodized finish to give it extra durability and tolerance against chemicals.
Okay, next one up.
The next one up is what we call the GFX wash down system. This is a wash down mover, and again it features an aluminium body with a hard anodized finish. One thing that you will notice is that the bearings have this sealed arrangement, and this is common across all of the different ranges. And obviously that is designed to keep water ingress out from the bearings. Keeps the lubricant sealed in there. It is a food grade lubricant that we use on these systems as well, so it's very much suited to those types of applications. In addition, you'll see there's a large cutout there. That's to make it very easy for cleaning, reducing dirt traps. The actual base plate and the body of the GFX system itself also features a number of cutouts, which allows it to be easily cleaned down. Very much what it says on the tin.
Clearly, a lot of thought has gone into this product. Okay, so then we move up again.
Yes. So the next level, or our top specification, is GFX Hygienic Aseptic version. So this is really the top level of cleaning regimes. Probably the harshest conditions we're likely to face. It's actually designed to cope with a cleaning process that uses up to 35% concentration of vaporized hydrogen peroxide. So this is really nasty stuff. And in this instance, all of the aluminium components have been replaced with 316 stainless steel. So that's the main base plate, the motor brackets, and the movers themselves, mover bodies themselves.
Okay, so specific industries, applications, where do we find this sort of equipment being used, Alec?
Yeah, so I've already touched on, a sort of a pharmaceutical application where you might be having the, incremental or occasional clean down operations. Food manufacturing is a big one, of course, and both the wash down and the aseptic version could be used in those applications. Really, any application where you've got in-process sort of washing that takes place, you might consider either version. Obviously, it really depends on the degree of clean down and wash down that you're using that will determine whether you're using either the wash down, which is aluminium based, or the aseptic, which is stainless steel based.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that we just don't need to know if it's washed down, or we need to know more details so that the fit's right. How is it being washed down, the pressure, all sorts of things that come into the equation for the final selection.
Yeah, crucially, we need to know the chemicals, the makeup of what's being used to clean these systems down. But just going back to sort of the type of applications we've seen. We've done anything from filling of fluids, food, sort of milk, that sort of thing. Powdered foods we've also encountered, and that works incredibly well for two reasons. With the GFX, we've got the V-Guide system, so it has this inherent self-cleaning action which works really well. Plus, you've got the clean down specification as well. So it really sort of ticks all the boxes in that respect. And this technology is really groundbreaking. There's nothing else out there that really does this. The sort of next step down is sort of rudimentary sort of stainless steel chain driven systems. So
yeah, that's a big step down. Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk in terms of performance. What do we get out of one of these systems?
So these systems are very much designed to be comparable with the standard GFX system. So speeds of up to 4 meters per second are still very much possible. There is a slight derating on the load, about 20% compared to standard, because we're using stainless steel material as opposed to carbon steel. And in addition, the driving force as well, Beckhoff use a slightly different magnet design, and that slightly reduces the driving force that can be created. It's worth mentioning that all of these options, we can do it in both the 1TL format, which is the sort of small format, or we can do PRT2 options. So
yes.
that will give you sort of oval and rectangular systems as well.
Okay, to all intents and purposes, we're talking about all the advantages that come out of the HepcoMotion V system. So all of those that we've talked about time and time before, because they're so important to industry. Those advantages, those benefits apply to GFX Hygienic as well, which is a very positive thing. Okay, I think it's worth mentioning that within GFX we've developed various formats now. We've got the standard ones, like you say, 1TL, PRT2, offering oval or rectangular configurations. We've developed the Agile. We've developed our TMS system, our track management system, which we now have also GFXR. And now we're very proud that GFX Hygienic is part of the family that works so well with our partners Beckhoff and their XTS. So yeah, excellent.
Yeah, definitely solving problems that we couldn't solve before.
That's why we're here, and I think it's a timely reminder that bring us your problems. We are problem solvers, and our products are problem solvers. So we're looking forward to talking to you about those applications in the future. Don't forget, any questions, we'd love to hear from you now. Okay, Alec, that was a quick half hour. Let's summarise what we've covered. We've covered stainless steel options in our linear range, SL2. We've taken that a step forward and looked at our ring and track system options, and we've taken that a step forward again and looked at our hygienic options within the GFX and XTS range. Yeah,
real sort of, combination of technology sort of stepping up through complexity there. So yeah, it's been very exciting looking at them all. And of course, those of you that are familiar with our previous presentations will know all about the features and benefits of the V-Guide. And all of these solutions we've looked at today are based around V-Guide solutions. So you've got the inherent self-cleaning action, you've got low friction, low noise, high speed, high acceleration, high performance. All of those sorts of benefits that we associate with the V-Guide are relevant to all of these different systems we've looked at today.
Indeed they are. Okay, I think we're going to be ready for some questions soon, Alec.
Yeah, so get your questions in, final questions now, and David and I will do our very best to answer them.
See you soon. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for all the questions that have been coming in. Please keep them coming. Let's get straight into it, Alec. Question 1.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thank you for your questions. Okay, we'll crack right on. First up, we've got Franz Joseph, who is asking. He says, "Hello, you speak about stainless steel solutions. Is it possible to produce the tracks and wheels out of duplex steel 1.4462? Well, firstly, Franz Joseph, apologies, I'm not really familiar with that grade of steel, although I generally know that it is used for sort of stainless steel vessels and things like that. We primarily use a 400 series grade stainless steel for our guides and bearings, primarily because it gives us that mix of carbon content, which allows us to harden the material. Okay. So we do an induction hardening process on the V-Guides, for example. So we're only hardening the actual V's themselves. The centre of the slide is left soft, which allows you to modify it. We can obviously put holes in it, etc. But it does allow us to harden those V-Guides to 52 Rockwell C in the stainless steel range, which gives us a really sort of great durability, but also a nice mix of corrosion resistance. As I talked about earlier, it's about finding the balance with the correct grade of material.
It's worth making the point again, these systems are proven. We've been supplying these systems in this grade of material for a long time, for decades, with outstanding proven success in the industry. So, yeah, next question.
Yes, okay, next question is from Andreas, and Andreas is asking about the drive components of the DTS system. Are they also available in stainless steel?
Good question. Typically, no. Is the answer. What we will do with a with a corrosive resistant application, a corrosive resistant requirement is we can provide a hybrid system, and that will comprise of stainless steel rails, stainless steel bearings, fully anodized carriage plates and aluminium and so forth. But the actual drive components will not be. Although it should be considered that they are not an integral part of the machine. They're tucked away from the action, in the middle, behind where those corrosive elements are at the most importance. So no, we don't, but we've supplied plenty of systems into that sort of environment before with success.
Yep, thank you, David. Okay, next question from Chris. And Chris is asking, is it possible to have track management system in the hygienic format? If not yet, is it planned? That's an interesting question. Obviously, the hygienic system has been developed around Beckhoff's IP69K motor modules, and there are a number of challenges in making a track switch to a hygienic grade. Primarily, the biggest challenge there would be the actual actuator itself, which is transferring the motor modules between one stage to another. Have we considered it yet? No. Will we consider it in the future? Possibly, I guess is the answer there. But certainly at the moment we haven't got a solution for that. But we would certainly be interested in talking to you or any customers that have an application, you know, and I think that's one of the key things with all of these developments, including Hygienic GFX. Much of this has been driven by the needs of the customer, of you, and we always look to try and solve problems.
Absolutely right. Necessity being the mother of invention. And it's a good point. It's just the mode of drive between those two switching levels that essentially we use screwdrivers at the moment, and we would have to think of another way of doing that, quite frankly. But if there was a requirement out there, I think we'd be absolutely delighted to look at it.
Yes. Okay. Next question is from Jacob. Hi, Jacob. Great to see you today. Does replacing the aluminium carriage with 316 stainless steel impact the dynamic of the GFX system? That is a great point and well observed. As you know, stainless steel is a heavier material than aluminium. So we recognise that, and of course one of the things we didn't want to do was stick a great big lump of stainless steel on our nice sort of XTS GFX system, which would limit the dynamics of the system. So sadly, I haven't got a demonstration unit here with me today of that stainless steel mover, but it is an absolute work of art, I think, to credit our R&D team. It's a forged stainless steel construction which has been machined to really optimize both its strength and its weight. So we're not really, although it is marginally heavier than the aluminium counterpart, we're not really giving away very much because of this highly optimized design that we've got with the mover body itself. Yeah, so really interesting point.
Quite so. It's application dependent, I would say, as well. There are certain applications where using a stainless steel mover body instead of an aluminium one will have very little impact because it's so close to the line of the bearings and depending on the dynamics of the application. But yeah, every effort's been made for instance with GFX, to minimise the difference and the impact of using a heavier mover body.
Yeah, great. Next question from Alejandro. I have an application with a temperature of minus 30 degrees Celsius and I would like to use a DLS3. Is this possible? That is a great question. Certainly from a guide and bearing perspective, no problem at all. We can accommodate that. The only question I might have, which I would have to go away and check myself, is on the drive belt itself. But my gut instinct tells me that we should be able to do something. And what I would encourage you to do is speak to us, speak to our technical department, and we'll be able to work with you and come up with a solution for that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, right, next question from Mike. So Mike is asking, on the new Hygienic GFX, what temperature range can these operate in? Very good question. I'm not 100% sure on that. Certainly, I think we're looking at close to 100 degrees in terms of maximum temperature. But again, it's probably one that we need to look at your application and understand what the requirements are. You know, what's the duration of that temperature, etc. Yeah, very interesting.
Sure.
Another question from Chris. Are the belts on the DTS food grade, and can you provide ATEX rated belts if required? Okay, so the belts on the DTS are a reinforced polyurethane belt, tooth timing belt. So generally they are suitable for most typical sort of food grade applications. And in terms of ATEX rating is obviously explosive index, and there are explosive or sort of static resistant belts that we can use. We would really need to understand what your requirements are there, but right. We have supplied systems with an ATEX or systems that are suitable for use within an ATEX rating. We won't necessarily ATEX rate them ourselves.
No.
Okay, next question from Bill LeBeau in our friends across the pond in Bishop Weisgarver. Hi Bill, can you highlight the benefits of the three-wheel carriage? David, do you want to take this?
Well, yeah, I mean the benefit of the three-wheel carriage is, my analogy would be a three-legged stool, where there's full contact on the ground all the time, and with a four-legged stool, if you've got one leg shorter than the other, or if you've got unlevel ground, then essentially you could get some wobble. And depending on the configuration of a track system, there's certain geometry that could go in from straight to curve, where there's an instantaneous bit of wobble in the system, which is generally of no importance whatsoever to an application. But with a three bearing carriage, such as used on GFX 1TL, that doesn't apply, and it's a full contact going all the way around the system. The disadvantage of a three bearing carriage, of course, is you've got three bearings instead of four, so the capacity is reduced. But that's, of course, where we look at the application and decide what's necessary based on the payload and the dynamic requirements. Anything to add to that, Alex?
Yeah, and I think it's just worth adding that we use a three bearing mover specifically on GFX because when we have the clothoid ends, which use the Beckhoff 180 degree motors, so it is not a true sort of 180 degree semicircle as well. No, it's actually sort of a blended profile, which allows us to get a much greater consistency in terms of the acceleration as we move around the corner. So in order to achieve that sort of varying radius as we go around the corner, it will only work with a three bearing mover. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way we actually maintain the preload is not by adjusting the bearing geometry, but by adjusting the geometry on the guide itself, which is an incredibly clever process developed by HepcoMotion.
Correct.
Okay, next question is from Serdar. What kind of effect do we encounter on the movement performance of the system in an environment where there are chocolate or sticky fluids, David?
Wow. What a question. Chocolate or sticky fluids, eh? To all intents and purposes, we know that with the V system, one of the inherent advantages of the V system is the wiping action, okay? Now, we've, on one of our previous webinars before, Alec, where we essentially went to work with some Weetabix, if I could say the brand name, and our V slide, and of course, things can get in the way. Things can get in the way between the sort of like of the contact part of the V wheel and the slide, and it can cause resistance. But to all intents and purposes, once that gets kicked out of the way, as our V slide principle is famous for doing, then the actual running characteristics of the performance of the system shouldn't be affected too much.
Yeah, and I think it's it's safe to say we've harped on many times before about the the fundamental benefits of the V-guide system and the fact it's got this self-cleaning wiping action as it moves along the guide, and it's equally capable of moving away dirt, dust, as it is sort of some of the more sort of sticky substances. But
was it chocolate and sticky?
Chocolatey and sticky fluids.
I think we'd have to have a look at both, in terms of the stickiness, and I'll personally look into the chocolate.
I mean, personally, it sounds like a great pudding, to be honest. Okay, next question up from David. So to David, what material grades do you use for your stainless steel products and why?
Okay, well, we've touched on this before. You've got essentially our standard slides are made out of a high carbon grade steel for toughness, for longevity, for rigidity, and all those good reasons. And then if you go to a fully stainless system, then that would require Series 300, where, quite frankly, it's too soft. It's too soft to get the type of system life that people require in modern industry. So what we've done successfully for decades is use something in between, and that's the 400 series of stainless steel, 420 series on the rails, and 440C on the bearings. And what that gives you is it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the hardness and the toughness required for the longevity of a system, which is of course important when it comes to return of investment and so forth, but also those stainless steel elements. And these bearings and slides, I cannot go on about it enough, that these have been used in so many different applications and so many industries successfully for decades.
Thank you, David. Next question from Cyril. How have you developed the hygienic solutions? Is this existing technology or in-house design? Well, obviously we've worked very closely with our technology partners, Beckhoff. Particularly with the Hygienic GFX, to come up with a solution that is basically groundbreaking. There's nobody else out there doing it as well as we do it. We have an in-house team of R&D engineers that have developed this product, and crucially, those guys are part of the European Hygienic Engineering and Design Group, which has allowed us to work and come up with these very innovative designs that we see on the Hygienic GFX system that we've looked at today.
Good question.
Next question, what payload can the Hygienic GFX take? David?
Well, there are lots of factors that dictate that. I would say typically you're looking at something maybe 3, 4, 5 kilograms. That's quite typical. Alec has already mentioned the fact that we do two different types. We do the one-track version, that uses a 3-bearing mover, and we do the PRT2 version that uses a 4-bearing mover. And the payloads on the PRT2 version are arguably 25% higher, or so I'm sure there's a little bit more. The algorithms are a little bit more complex than that. But you can obviously put more on a 4-bearing mover than you can on a 3-bearing mover. Typically, the sort of applications we see go up to 3 to 5 kilograms quite usually. We can go heavier than that. We do go heavier than that, but that's somewhat dependent on other parameters of the application, such as speed, more importantly acceleration, the velocity profile, and so forth.
Thank you, David. Another question from Peter, who's asking, do we look into seals that are FDA approved over 100 degrees Celsius for the bearings? So Peter, yeah, we have a number of options which are to sort of FDA type standards, our SL2 range specifically, but our high temperature bearings, we have options up to 150 degrees C. It's also worth mentioning that our partners in the USA, Bishop Weiscarver, have a range of high temperature bearings, including a brand new wash down solid lubricant variant as well, which is quite an interesting solution. Okay, if there are any more questions, now's your time to get them in. Otherwise, we will look at wrapping this up pretty shortly. Just another question that's come in quickly. What vacuum levels can your bearings work in, David?
Well, that would be 10 to the minus 8 torr, which I guess you help me with this, Alec. I think in terms of the range of vacuum, that probably goes to about halfway.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. We've done a number of vacuum type applications with customers, and it's really allowed them to have some sort of linear motion within that vacuum chamber. And as I talked about earlier, this is a ported design, and it uses a very specialized lubricant which is suited for vacuum applications.
Yeah, quite so, yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we've just about wrapped it up there. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
As always, please do check out the website where we have lots of great case studies, videos, and so on. Check out our social media, LinkedIn, where we'll keep you up to date with all the latest developments. And we hope to see you again very soon for the next webinar.
Bye for now.